The mantra that I like to use is to be where my feet are. And it's mindfulness, right? And so it's really thinking about, where am I? What's the challenge that I'm facing? What are the resources that I have to address the challenge? And a challenge can be a good thing too, right? It's not always a bad thing, but sometimes we get an opportunity, which it can be difficult to differentiate an opportunity from a challenge. So mindfulness helps. It definitely helps to be surrounded by people like I am, fortunately, who love and support you and believe in you. And I also think that leading with gratitude is a huge way to keep your gut open. So I could spend the next hour telling you about all of our failures, all of our challenges, everything we lost. It's fine. We lose all the time. But if we focus on what we have to be grateful for, I think it just opens your intuition and your heart to, what the best decision is that you can make with your head.
Welcome back to the Badass Women in Business podcast. We are here today with someone extremely special to me, Onesto Moran, who is the founder and CEO of Green Home Experts. And she has an amazing story. And I hope you all are as inspired by her and her story today as I am. So Maria, welcome to our podcast. And as we ask all of our guests, tell us your story and how you got here.
Thank you, Christy, and thank you, Aggie. I appreciate you having me today. It is always fun to take a minute and talk about how things got started and how things are going, for sure. So in 2007, I thought I had the next best idea. I started a company called Green Home Experts, and my idea was that we would become like a green version of Home Depot. And so we sold eco-friendly countertops, paint, flooring, toilets, you name it. And that started about 10 seconds before the Great Recession and the housing crash. Great timing on my part. Timing, you'll hear, is a theme in my history, and not always a good one. So we got that off the ground, and it was a challenge to get started because of the housing crisis. We ended up starting more of a general store, and we became this all things green company, which was very cool. And after the economy recovered a little bit more, we moved into a bigger location where we had an eco-friendly showroom, general store, and garden center. And it was wonderful. And we had this phenomenal community of like-minded customers who were so thirsty for knowledge and the opportunity to, build a safe, non-toxic home. I was with my people, and it was wonderful, and it was super hard. It's really hard to run a business that's open 7 days a week with seasonality, with low profit margins on, high ticket items, you name it. And by pure dumb luck, we got the opportunity to start distributing some products for an energy efficiency program that was statewide at the end of 2011. And as that work started to snowball, I started to realize product distribution doesn't always fit well in a business that was built as a showroom or as a retail store. And so before you know it, we had delivery trucks that couldn't get through our alley because we were in this urban storefront. We had interior designers on staff who didn't want to or know how to pack pallets. And all of a sudden things just weren't fitting. I was also pregnant with my third kid at the time and thought that I might have an opportunity for life to be easier in the warehousing model. And so I called up my landlord and said, what would happen if I asked you to let me out of your lease? And I think she was glad to get rid of me because I had signed the lease when the economy was worse. So she gladly unloaded me that day. And I remember calling my husband and being like, oh, shoot, I got what I wanted. Now what? We're closing this really successful, awesome business. And we didn't close. The message to our customers was, thanks, this was great. We're pivoting. Little did we know how popular that word would become in business, right? So then I had 3 years, 2016, 17, and 18, that were awesome. I worked on a couple of programs. I only had a couple of customers. I was able to raise my very young family from home for 3 great years. And then in 2019, one of the utilities that we work with came to me with a challenge. And they said, we love what you're doing. We love the work that you're providing for us. we'd like to ask you if you could add a workforce development component to your work. And were they asking? Yes. But when they fund 100% of your work, it's not really an ask. So after some stumbles and a little bit of creative thinking and reaching out to my network, we landed on the greatest workforce in the universe. So today, Green Home Experts employs people with disabilities to be our warehouse associates. And their work includes packing our energy efficiency kits, scanning our orders, doing quality control, warehouse maintenance, small order assembly. There's a lot of work that we do here, and our warehouse associates do much of it. Their dedication to the company really, really came through during COVID. So while many warehouses and many businesses had to cut back or scale back or even close down because they couldn't get people to come to work, we've never in our lives had an issue with getting our workforce to show up. And so we not only were able to make it through COVID, we actually were able to take on work from other warehouses because we had staffing. And our energy efficiency kits, every program is different, but our energy efficiency kits typically will build of the same kind. And so it's great to have a workforce that's wired to enjoy repetition. And we have a great time. We have a wonderful company culture here. Things happen at GHE that I know don't happen at a lot of other places. And it's really just been one of the greatest blessings in my career.
You were talking and I was like, okay, so you got into retail right before recession. First of all, retail was the bane of my existence for a long time during my entrepreneurial career.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to rewind a little before that, for the benefit of our listeners who may be working a corporate job or being an employee and are thinking into getting into business. What were you doing before you had this wonderful idea of becoming the green version of Home Depot?
Aggie, you asked a wonderful question because I learned at a very young age that I am a terrible employee. And I was working in marketing and communications and doing a lot of fundraising, either for nonprofits or for political candidates here in Illinois. And that is really satisfying and hard work. And so when I was working for one of my candidates 7 days a week, I was actually their events person. So not only was I working the 9 to 5 that everyone else, well, more than 9 to 5 than everyone else was working, I was doing the 9 to 5 and then going to our events. And I realized I cannot work this hard for someone that isn't myself. And one day while we were having lunch, our boss actually said, if you could start a company today, if you could start a business today, what would it be? And I had two ideas. One was I wanted to start an arcade that had carnival food. And then the other one was a green Home Depot. And she really planted the seed for me to start to take that seriously. And then when my husband and I got married and we bought a condo, we had a couple of things that we wanted to change in our unit. And I realized that the product that I wanted to purchase wasn't easily available. That's changed a lot. But in 2006, it was a much different atmosphere than it is now.
With the current climate change, when it comes to energy efficiency, how have you seen that impact your business?
Oh, it's been a year. That's the end of my answer. It's challenging, Chrissy. So our customers, I guess I should explain a little bit more about what we do now. Our customers are either utility clients or basically a general contractor that has relationships with the utilities. So at the end of the day, we don't receive state or federal funding. We don't receive grant funding. We are utility funded. And not just here in Illinois, but our work is in, Illinois, Wisconsin, Alabama, Indiana, Michigan, and Vermont. And I hope if I forgot anybody, I apologize in advance. And so all of those utilities are funding our projects. So luckily, unlike so many other people in energy efficiency, renewable energy, clean energy, we're not really being affected by the scale backs or just the complete, cutoff of that funding at a governmental level. But we're dealing with tariffs, which have hurt us tremendously. everything else just being way more expensive than it was not that long ago, which makes it difficult to manage our bottom line. And it's just an overall, unsteadiness in our overall industry, wondering what's going to happen to everybody in the next few years.
And so to go in a little bit deeper, what does your typical project look like when you're working with one of those utilities?
Yeah, so we operate on a set of core values, and one of the core values that we operate on is our versatility. So our team, we like to be able to bend as much as we can to accommodate our teams and to wrap ourselves around their needs so that we can be, the linchpin in the success of their programs. But it comes down to three main focus points. So the first one is product distribution. We have product that we either are picked up here at the warehouse or that we ship to the client. And that client has installers that are going into people's homes and installing a smart thermostat, weather stripping, new light bulbs, shower head, aerator, you name it. We also, our second area of focus is our kitting program. So for instance, where I live, my kiddos, when they go through fifth grade, they're going to do an energy efficiency curriculum in school that's delivered by the utility. And when they finish that curriculum, they come home with a box that mom has packed of LED light bulbs, shower heads, aerators, night lights, door sweeps with utility branding, on the box and information inside the box. So someone has to build those kits, right? And that just so happens to be us. So it's product distribution, it's kitting, and then the third thing is pick and pack services. So one of the things that we like to do for our clients is be the warehouse that fills their marketplace orders. A lot of utilities will either create a long-standing or a limited time offer on their website where their customers can go online and purchase energy efficiency products at a steep discount. Somebody needs to be the warehouse that ships those products out, and we like to be that somebody.
It's like you know what you're doing.
I love when people think I know what I'm doing.
I love it. I'm gonna pull up another aspect of your business, and outside of your energy kitting, I believe you also do fulfillment for B2B customers. How did that get started, and what value has that brought to your organization?
So in 2019, we had a few companies in the area. One used to work in the warehouse that we work in, and another one was introduced to us by a mutual friend. And they both had a fulfillment challenge on their hands. One of the businesses had outgrown her garage or her basement or wherever she was doing her own fulfillment. And our neighbor in the warehouse was just having a really hard time with getting his guys to sit down and pack these small orders. So they were, shipping their orders late. They were not doing it super successfully. They had, people who weren't super thrilled with the owners that they had to get the work done. And separately, but both around the same time, they came to us and said, "You're shipping 150,000 energy efficiency kits every year. Could you ship our couple of hundred or couple of thousand orders a year for us?" And anyone who knows me knows that I like to say yes and then go figure it out. So I said yes, and then I tried to figure it out. And the yes came sooner than the figuring it out part. But long story short, we accidentally became a third-party logistics firm. And we basically just knocked a hole into the wall in the warehouse next door to us and expanded our space and started bringing in inventory that belongs to other customers. But like you said, Chrissy, we have attracted almost exclusively small businesses, many of which are woman-owned, whose values align with ours. So we have, eco-friendly products, we have size-inclusive products, we have products owned by women, we have products owned by women of color. Everybody that we work with, for the most part, we see the world through a very similar lens, which I adore. Because as a small business owner, I completely understand that when they're shipping their purse or their book or their coffee or their whatever, there's a lot of work that goes into that order. There's coming up with the idea, there's funding it, there's the marketing, there's the investors, there's the product sourcing, there's the, you name it. And if we get that order wrong, we've messed all of that up for them. But when we get it right, and by the way, we get it right more than 98% of the time, when we get it right, we've shipped their success. And so our DBA is GHE Fulfillment, and our tagline is We Ship Your Success. And I love it because I love supporting small businesses, working with them.
It is like you are creating your own fulfillment collective. I love that. You mentioned a few things here that are leading me to believe that you're a pretty good leader in terms of how you are building your workforce, how you're leading them to excellence. It's not always an easy shift from being an employee to being a leader of people. Business ownership gets pressure on. We have that responsibility of people working for us, sometimes responsibility for their future. How did you shift from being Maria, the person who works for other people, to Maria leading her own people?
Well, I think one of the benefits that I had when I started my business is that I was a baby. I was 25, I think, when I started the shop. I guess I should, I was 25. And so I didn't know any better, and ignorance is bliss. I had worked, in high school, throughout college, a little bit outside of college, but still clearly had no idea what I was doing. So the first year and a half of the business, the first 2.5 years of GHE, I was the only employee. I did everything, literally everything, unless I could get my husband or my mom to come help me do it. I did it. And so I learned every single aspect of the business, much of my learning by making mistakes, but that hasn't changed. And then, it was slowly figuring out, okay, great. Now that I know this, I know how to teach it. Or now that I know this, I know who to look for that will do it for me, like my bookkeeping and my accounting and my web development and, you name it. And I certainly made and continue to make millions of mistakes. But I think that the wonderful company culture we have here speaks to the fact that some things go well. And I've learned that the more confident I am in my leadership and in my decision making, the more confident my staff is. As I'm raising my business, I'm also raising small children. And there are so many parallels to being a mom at work and being a mom at home. And so, learning to be the thermostat and not the thermometer, knowing that I can control the situation, that I can change things if we're uncomfortable, if they're not going well, listening, patience, confidence, communication, and on and on and on. And right now, I have to admit, I'm at a point right now with our team, there's about 21 of us on staff, where there's just a ton of mutual respect. And my big thing is I don't really care how or when you get the work done. I just want it done right, and I want it done on time. And so if something is going to get in the way of you doing your work well, or of you getting it done on time, I should be the first person that you ask. But I'm going to not micromanage you, but I will always be your biggest supporter and your biggest cheerleader, and incredibly grateful for the wonderful work that our team puts out.
You make leadership sound like it's very easy, and it's not always. It really comes from leading. And I think the key thing that I captured from that is that you guys all have similar core values, not just you as employees, but you also have core values that align with your customers as well. And when you have that thread that carries through everything, it makes everything so much easier to hold accountability, to ensure that you're doing the right work at the right time, and that people have the right guidance that they need. I think micromanagement, people think that micromanagement is a bad thing, and you're not micromanaging, but you're also saying, I'm here when you need it, and I have expectations. It's about setting the expectations right that create the accountability and the freedom. So you do an incredible job with that and your teams. If you could say 1 to 2 things that has led to your success as a leader, as a business owner, as a mom, what are the 1 to 2 things that truly ground you and keep you moving forward?
Yes, that perpetual optimism is definitely a challenge. I have had plenty of setbacks throughout the years, every couple of years, including in April of this year. I have one of those cry into my pillow weeks where I'm not completely convinced that this whole thing is going to work out. And my husband will tell you it's the same conversation each time. We're doomed. I don't know what I'll do if I have to lay off anybody from my staff. And I'm unemployable. Like literally, I don't know what I would do. At this point, this has to work out because I don't know what kind of a job I could get and who the hell would hire me. So that's the new optimism. But actually, truthfully, so we've been in business for 18 years. And after what we've experienced this year, and laugh at me if you want, because a lot of other people have. I truly believe after 18 years that we can make this work. The funny thing is, I have staff that has been with me for, 6 years who has always believed that. And now I'm joining them in the belief that it's always going to work out. So you do have to be optimistic. You do have to persevere. You also have to know when to stop. Not everything works. If you continue to hit your head up against a concrete wall and the concrete's not budging, but your head is bleeding, you're the one that has to make a change. And it's tough. It's tough to know, like, am I being patient enough? Am I giving it enough time? Am I not giving it enough time? So while patience and perseverance and resilience are incredibly important, and I would say that's my number one, the number two is listening to your gut. And perhaps I go with my gut because I have a degree in sociology, which does not serve me at all in what I do ever. But I don't have, a business degree. I didn't inherit a business from someone that showed me the ropes. I actually remember when I was in my 20s, one of my dad's friends, who was a very successful businessman, suggested that I go work for Home Depot for a year to learn the ropes, which is good advice that I was never going to take. And I was super pissed when he gave me that advice because it was never going to happen. And my oldest son, when he was 14, he asked me if I would ever consider going to business school. And I said, I've already paid for business school. I went to the school of hard knocks. I have lost a ton of money. I have made every mistake. I've already earned my degree. And what I've had, in addition to a little bit of smarts and wit, probably more wit than smarts, is my gut. And my gut has guided me through a lot of challenging and exciting times. I do want to, though, Chrissy, if you don't mind, I do want to go back to what you were saying earlier about leadership. And I'm in a position where I have a tendency to hire women that I'm a little bit afraid of. And I can tell you my top 3 positions that work for me, I'll check that box. So my accountant / bookkeeper, Fran, is absolutely phenomenal. And she would laugh if she heard me say this, but I am a little bit afraid of her. But what that does is it gives me the respect and fear that I need to do what she wants me to do. And Fran's kept me out of poverty and prison for almost 2 decades, so I'm going to continue to listen to her. And my warehouse manager, Colleen, who is absolutely phenomenal at what she does, I met her at our kickboxing club. And I saw how fierce she is, and I saw how strong she is, and I saw how much of a fighter, literally and figuratively, she is. And she was looking for an extra job one day, and I said, well, if you're looking for a little bit of extra work, you should definitely come work for me because you're my girl. And luckily for me, she actually took a huge leap of faith on us and left the industry that she had been working in to come work for me full time. And then lastly, I have my chief operating officer, Jessica. And Jessica does all of the work that I hate. So she's our HR person. She's our compliance person. She does our quality control. She does like 80 million things. We could do a whole podcast on what Jessica does, but she balances me out. So I get to be the fun, happy, creative queen bee. And then she makes sure that we're not breaking any laws and that, things are coming to fruition in a profitable and successful way. When I introduced Jessica, I will tell people I have the big ideas and she has the good ideas. So between the two of us, we're a really good team.
Oh, you have the perfect balance between being a visionary and having your own little integrator that puts things together for you. That's
exactly.
awesome.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. There are so many quotable moments. I wrote down earlier what you said, learning how to be the thermostat and not the thermometer. I love that one. And the second one for me was like, hire people that you're a little bit scared of. And also, apparently, don't listen to the patriarchal advice that we get from, I was like, clearly this was a men in their middle essence going like, go work for a Home Depot, get the ropes, and then open your business around it.
Oh my gosh.
I've heard that
okay.
one.
Peggy, people used to come into my shop and ask me if this was my husband's business. And I think once I started like picking up a hammer every time they asked that question, they started to figure out that maybe that was a dangerous question to ask me. My husband's a teacher and a coach and my best friend and phenomenally professionally successful himself. And we never would have survived me starting my business and working together because of me. I wouldn't be able to do it. But I forget that I live in this wonderful yet insulated world where, our pickup truck is named after a girl. There are the top 3 leaders in the team are women. We are a certified WBE that I'm super proud of. We absolutely, not only do we operate in a patriarchal society, but people don't expect to see a woman at the receiving dock when they make deliveries here. And it's just super exciting. So we had an electric forklift a couple weeks ago, and I went to take a selfie with our new forklift, and I was showing it to my kids at home that night. And then it dawned on me, I was dressed as Wilma Flintstone because it was Halloween. So I'm like, yeah, here's my selfie with the new forklift, but it's really me dressed as Wilma Flintstone with the forklift. And it's super fun. It's an example that I absolutely love that we can set for each other and for our staff and for our vendors. And it makes things easy. So a while ago, we had to implement the no asshole rule. And the no asshole rule is if you are a customer, vendor, or employee and you're an asshole, you can't work with us. And it really does help with some decision making. But certainly we've all heard and seen things around here that, men haven't had to deal with historically. And our experience and our no asshole policy really helps us with creating the kind of company culture that we want to work in. I also think women typically are better communicators. And so we are able to, I shouldn't say we're better communicators. I think women are good at prioritizing communication. And I had a friend a few years ago who said that communication is leadership. And I didn't agree with him right away, but he talked me into it. And so between the 3 of us here on staff who lead the rest of the team, we do really have a phenomenal dynamic when it comes to communicating about anything, the good, the bad, the ugly.
Speaking of communicating, what's your definition of an asshole?
Anyone I don't like.
I was going to say, because Christy and I have a similar rule, except that we twist it in a positive way. We only work with people we like. So it's kind of like equal of like no assholes, but we got to like you.
It's basically the same thing. Yeah, except I get to swear. So.
Oh, we do too.
No, you're right. That's really funny. We don't have a definition. You just kind of, everyone's got one and you know what it is when you see it.
That is so true. And it also it's inevitable, I think, in every business that anybody runs, you will encounter those difficult clients, difficult vendors, difficult employees, difficult business partners. And I think it's really important to align with the values of your business. And we've talked a lot about values throughout this conversation. I'm curious, have yours changed or the businesses, have your business values changed throughout time to incorporate different values? And how do you make that decision within your business?
So I don't think they've changed, but I can tell you for the oh man, I don't know if I want to admit this. I would say for the first 13 years I was in business, I could not articulate them. And then I decided to go through the entrepreneur's operating system. I don't know what that guy's name. Oh, Gino Wickman. Gino Wickman wrote the EOS book. And during COVID, when we had some extra time on our hands, Jessica and I read the book, went through the whole exercises, and brainstormed on, what ultimately would become our core values. And those are commitment to excellence, having fun, growth mindset, versatility, and probably something else I'm forgetting. And so, they're plastered all over the walls everywhere throughout the warehouse. And so while they haven't changed, it did take me over a decade to understand their value and their importance and really why it matters to speak them into existence and to use them in everything. They're in our employee onboarding docs. They're in the proposals that we submit to prospects for new business. I mean, we really do feature them in our company culture and in our decision making. And I think there are probably still some unspoken ones. So the decisions that I made about making changes in my business, and a lot of decisions that I make on a daily basis, really revolve around my family. And I think that this is the greatest privilege and the greatest blessing that I've received from my company, which is I work, 8:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. And what does that really mean? After school drop off and before school pickup. And of course, I'll, get everybody home. And if I need to log back on, I do. But I take time off, to be with my family throughout the year. Luckily for me, if somebody's homesick, I can stay home with them and work from home. And I've tried to extend that courtesy as much as I possibly can to my team because we all have family, right? And everybody's definition of family is a little bit different and everybody's family looks a little bit different, but family is what comes first to all of us. And so if you need to change your work hours because you got to get your kid off to school, that's fine. We don't ship livers, we ship light bulbs. And so what we do, again, as long as it's getting done on time, it doesn't have to be at this exact second. And I know that this is doable because my customers are really happy with the work that we do for them. And a lot of this has become easier since COVID. And I just want the whole world to know we were doing this before COVID.
There's so many good things, but I want to go back to something that I find most women are just now rediscovering, that gut intuition and instinct. And so for someone who literally uses their gut to make decisions and it has yet to lead you far astray from what you're trying to accomplish, what advice could you give to somebody who has maybe lost touch with what that gut feeling is, and how can they start rekindling that identification and connection of the gut feeling?
That's such a good question, Chrissy. And it immediately sends me to also thinking about how do you turn it off when you get home? So not turning off your gut, but how do you disconnect your body, your mind, your soul, your heart from your business when you go home every day? Because to me, it's a lot of the same thing. One of the mantras that I try to live by is, I've heard it said in a couple of different ways, but the mantra that I like to use is to be where my feet are. And it's mindfulness, right? And so it's really thinking about, where am I? What's the challenge that I'm facing? What are the resources that I have to address the challenge? And a challenge can be a good thing too, right? It's not always a bad thing, but sometimes we get an opportunity, which it can be difficult to differentiate an opportunity from a challenge. So mindfulness helps. It definitely helps to be surrounded by people like I am, fortunately, who love and support you and believe in you. Some of them are staff, some of them are friends, some of them are family. And I also think that leading with gratitude is a huge way to keep your gut open. So I could spend the next hour telling you about well, Christy already knows them all, but all of our failures, all of our challenges, everything we lost. Gosh, I got an email on Friday night that was like, sorry, you weren't picked for this RFP. And I was like, wait, I thought we already got rejected. And then I realized I was getting rejected by a different customer. It's fine. Like we lose all the time. But if we focus on what we have to be grateful for, I think it just opens your intuition and your heart to, what the best decision is that you can make with your head.
I want to take what you just said and start demystifying some stuff, because I think from everything that we hear, first-time business owners go into business and try to make perfection out of every decision that they make. And so they're planning and building stuff that is not necessary for them to build, spending their times where they shouldn't be spending their times because they're afraid of failure. And you just said you failed and had many challenges along the way. So I want to dive into that a little bit further to basically reassure people who are thinking about going into business and saying, it's not always pink. It's not always rainbows and butterflies. Sometimes it gets pretty tough. And how do you weather that along the way?
That's so cool. So back when we were a showroom, I had a contractor who told me that if I was going to have my own construction company, it would be called Close Enough Construction, because my answer to most things is, it's close enough. And he's right. I don't like right angles. I don't like precision. I don't like accuracy, but I do know well enough to hire people who enjoy those things and who basically demand those things of ourselves. And it is a really challenging thing, Aggie. I don't know really like where one ends and the other begins. When is it that you're spending too much time on one thing? Or usually, if you're like me, you're not spending enough time thinking something through before you're doing it. I'm super impulsive. I'm super impatient. I don't know how to walk slowly. I don't know how to talk slowly. And a lot of mistakes are made along those ways. I also think that's what makes me a good entrepreneur, because I tried working for other people and I was super bored, and I could tell you everything that could be done better, and frustrated that I didn't have the power to do it. And not surprisingly, when I was in my 40s, I was diagnosed with ADHD, which I could have given you that diagnosis a couple days after I was born. So for me, I think it's just about learning how to use your strengths to your benefit. And hopefully along the way, that gets you to actually start doing things and spending a little bit less time on the ideation or the planning.
I think you said something key here, is that you're actually doing. And I think this is where people get stuck, is that they're thinking and planning and not actually doing. There are a lot of things that that you said that I can relate to, including the ADHD, because I think that that's when you're a visionary, you kind of have to be, right, to see the whole picture and bounce between things really fast, and given your ability
and enjoy that.
As well.
You have to enjoy that too. Yeah.
Yes. And having 33,000 things in your head at once. And
I wouldn't do it any other way. And it's exhausting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love it. It never shuts off.
Never. Nope.
No.
Just ask my anxiety. She knows all about it. Yeah. No, it's true. And like, I have a dear friend, Jeff, who owned his own landscaping business for 20 years and just sold it, which is the ultimate goal, right? And when we used to talk shop, he would ask me about a particular thing I was, brainstorming on. Well, what's the worst thing that could happen? And, maybe the worst thing that could happen is that it didn't work. But I really think the worst thing that could happen is you never tried doing it.
100%. So many big key takeaways, like the piece about actually doing the work. There's so many times that entrepreneurs get the start, and then they're not willing to continue with that same vigor, that same effort. And then they get to the point where you are today, where you've built a business so that you can hire the right people to do the things that you did not enjoy doing. But if anyone in listening to this heard, Her first 2.5, 3 years, Maria was wearing every single hat, knew how to do every single piece of the job inside and out herself. So it gave her the confidence to be able to hire and train others to do that role. If you're starting a business and you think, I only know A, B, and C, I don't know anything else, I'll just hire it, but you don't have the resources to do that, you got to figure out, you got to put in the grit. You have to have the tenacity to figure it out on your own until the business can afford it. And I think that's very important for people to know and recognize. And it doesn't come overnight.
No, it most certainly does not. But you know what that also does for you, Chrissy, is it gives you the opportunity, because I've heard a lot of people say, I started my business so that I could do X, Y, Z. And now that I'm doing it, I find that I'm doing A, B, and C. I'm doing payroll and bookkeeping and marketing, and that's not what I started my business for. But I think one of the fortunate things that I have is that whether or not I should follow this model of doing every job before I hire for it, it does give me the appreciation for the people who are executing the mission and the vision and the goals of the business. And so I'm just helping them with the objectives along the way, but they're the ones who are really fulfilling the goals. And it is true. I don't pack kits. I don't unload trucks. I don't scrub the floors anymore. There are so many things that I don't do. And what I really spend the majority of my time on now is business development. And what that gives me the opportunity to do is connect the external world with my phenomenal team. And everybody in the world should use my team because they're the best. And what are they the best at? Third-party logistics. So I get to make this connection between my team and the world. And I think that is my definition of business development. But I do all of that with an incredible appreciation for the fact that they are the ones who are really executing on our mission and vision.
I love that. In pure visionary to visionary fashion, what does the next 5 years look like for you?
Ooh, well, it looks great. So in February, we purchased our warehouse, so we own the building, which gives us the ability to grow and change as much as we need to. We spent several years before we owned the building of having to turn down business opportunities because we were out of square footage, or what really happened more than that was just cramming it all in and suffering. So owning the building was a gigantic victory for us. I also am really glad that we've diversified our revenue streams. So like I mentioned earlier in the podcast, we have our energy efficiency part of Green Home Experts, and then we have the 3PL part of GHE Fulfillment. And we have, dozens of customers spread across that portfolio. So I think that we are very fortunate to just have a diversified revenue stream. So in the next 5 years, my goal is to continue to invest in our team. In 2026, we are rolling out unlimited PTO, which is something we've never been able to do before. More professional development, ensuring that they have, every reason in the world to stick with us as a company. We are going through a rebrand. And so one day we'll be talking about a different company name, not Green Home Experts. That's super exciting and a wonderful reflection of the work that we've done, where we are now, and where we'd like to be headed, like you said, Aggie, in the next 5 years. But knowing that our key 3 strengths here are product distribution, kitting, and pick and pack services, the world is our oyster. And as long as we continue to align ourselves with people who, 1, are not assholes, and 2, share common values, I think that our company is poised for phenomenal successes. The successes will be tangible, right? Like it'll be easy to see where we've won and what we've won and everything. But most importantly to me, more than anything beyond that, is going to be the integrity with which we do our business. That really is at the core of our success.
Maria, this has been a pleasure learning about your journey. And Aggie's laughing because I just clapped my hands. I have an issue with making sounds that, if you guys listen to our podcast often, you'll hear I get excited. I use my hands. But thank you so much for being here with us today and sharing your journey and your story. You've accomplished so much with time on your side, and you've been able to create something that a lot of people can't sit here 19, 20 years later and say that it's still a success and there's still opportunities for growth, which is just a beautiful thing. So thank you so much. And to all of our listeners, stay badass.
Bye, ladies.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did recording it. If you like our show, please rate us, drop us a review on your favorite streaming app, and we'll catch you on the next episode. This was the Badass Women in Business podcast by Christy and Aggie.